With the release of Uncharted the movie finally coming out of its long development hell, I thought it'd be fun to dive back into the entirety of the Uncharted gaming franchise and rank every single Uncharted game from worst to best. Now, the best part about this list is getting your guys' thoughts on it down below in the comment section, so leave a comment. What is your Uncharted ranking? Have you seen the movie? Did you enjoy it? Because I'm really curious to see if you did, as well as why not hit that like and subscribe button, because us over here at Critics Play Games, we love playing video games, so if you also love doing the same thing, you are absolutely in the right place. And in general, let's just get started with this ranking. As a point of reference, just so you do understand that the movie version of Uncharted I will be ranking at the very end of this as a story-wise kind of how I feel towards the entirety of the Uncharted franchise, as well as the PSP version of the Uncharted Golden Abyss will be coming in last place for this entire video. I've only played it once, so I'm not going to go into entirety depth of it. It's a fun adventure, but really nothing more for me. Which actually brings me to my number 5 first, and that is Uncharted Drake's Fortune. This is what kicked off this entire franchise. Naughty Dog comes off of Jak and Daxter and gives us this brand new Indiana Jones adventure. One of the first games I ever got on my PlayStation 3, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, this first game doesn't have the depth that we'd love with the characters, but it has enough for you to really understand and love the personality and see what differences it has, unlike, say, Indiana Jones. And, you know, it's Indiana Jones-esque with the adventures and where you might go. But for me, the bond between the characters, whether it's Nathan and Victor Sullivan, or even, of course, Elena and Nathan Drake, there's a huge amount of characters that you truly just come to fall in love with. Truly enough, I think the only reason this one falters into last place now is just because it's older. This game doesn't hold up to the highest standards, even on the remastered version. It still runs good, the graphics are still pretty good, but it was revolutionary at the time of when this game had come out. But every single game since it has upped the graphical power, has upped the gameplay, and in a sense has even tried to up the storytelling devices. Overall, this is a fun adventure game that has a lot of fun set pieces. The banter between all the characters is great, as well as the story is intriguing to see where it happens to go. But out of all the Uncharted games, this one comes in last due to, again, you know, it was revolutionary at the time, but now we have all of its sequels. Coming down at my number 4 is Uncharted The Lost Legacy. Now, really much, this only comes down this low because of the length of the story being told. I actually think the story between Chloe and, of course, Nadine Ross is actually quite interesting, and as well taking Sam Drake and bringing that character into the mix. There's a lot of fun in here, and Chloe has always been one of my favorite Uncharted characters to follow along with, and honestly, if they were to decide to make another Uncharted game with just Chloe Fraser, I would all be in there for it. I think Lost Legacy proves that she is a character you can follow with. The gameplay, once again, is great. I love the open world set piece that they kind of took from the little Madagascar section from Uncharted 4, and I overall just think they understood what they were doing with inside this game. So when it comes down to all the Uncharted games, I think they're all pretty damn good, all the console ones at least for that matter. Well, this game is very contained, and it would have been nice to get an entire game. This very much was just a spin-off, and I'm hoping to see maybe we get something in the future with these characters. Coming down at my number 3, and honestly, 3, 2, and 1, you could argue are perfect games for me. But coming down at my number 3 is Uncharted 4: A Thieves End. Now, I think story-wise, emotionality-wise, character-wise, this is the best Uncharted yet. And I love it because the interplay between Nathan Drake and his brother, or even the development between him and Elena, and how Nathan Drake is now at kind of his end of his, in a sense, career. Everything's kind of going amok. He's really much living this entire life, and he's just doing what he's supposed to be doing now. Director from The Last of Us to come over and do an Uncharted game, you absolutely know you're going to get some deeper character moments, and that's why I say is that, like, story-wise and character-wise, this is the best that the franchise has ever been. Make the bold decision to put the treasure hunter behind in his glory days, and really much introduce now his new brother, who brings such an interesting development to his life. Overall, think as an ending to Nathan Drake, this is as perfect as you possibly could have gotten. I love the set pieces, even though I don't think it has some of the greatest set pieces in Uncharted. There are still some fantastic ones here. I think in this movie they went more with substance and quality over quantity. Even though I will say the gameplay, everything like that's great, I find the game to be a little bit too long for its pacing. I really think that's the only thing that holds this game back from being the top one. Now, coming down on my number 2, a lot of you guys are going to disagree with me on this one, but that is Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. There's a lot about this game that I absolutely love. This came back for being the sequel, and you know, it's already over 10 years old at this point, but it's quite impressive to see how this game still holds up. The opening sequence with the train and then actually getting to that point was quite ferocious. I love where the mythical element actually comes into towards the end. I thought that was freaking awesome. The last boss is fine, but even other than that, when you look at every single set piece, the way that they really much went above and beyond the first game, and really much, again, like how the first game revolutionized stuff on the PS3, this game also went above and beyond to revolutionize everything. And really much, I think this is the game that went, yeah, Naughty Dog might have made Crash and made Jak and Daxter and of course made the first Uncharted game, but this is it. They are seriously the next gaming studio. And there was something about Uncharted, the way that it was masterfully written to bring about everything going on. Stronger narrative, a satisfying adventure, and a ton of heart placed into Nathan Drake as well as our other characters, with new introductions to Chloe, Finn, and of course more development into Elena. This is a game that I honestly keep going back to every other year, and I just love doing and playing this game. Also at the time, I love the multiplayer for this, and I would love to see more stuff put into the Uncharted world when it comes down to the multiplayer. It seems like this game got that perfect balance of not too much, but just enough for it to make it a blast. Whereas everything comes down to, at my number 1, it is Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception. This was Uncharted's true moment in the spotlight for me. After what Uncharted 2 had done, everyone was looking at Uncharted 3. And for me, this was actually the only Uncharted game I didn't get to play first day. I was very excited to, but at the time money was a little bit strained and I couldn't grab the game. Thankfully, after a couple months later, I did get to pick up Drake's Deception and I was blown away. This is my favorite Uncharted game, and it really much has been for a while. And I know that's kind of the controversial pick, but you know, it is my list, and that's why we do have the comment section so you guys can leave your comments on what your favorite is. For me, while it comes down to is all the Uncharted games contain that same smart-ass wit from Nathan Drake, and it contains all the great action set pieces, but there's something special about this one. And it's because my favorite secondary character, besides Chloe, besides Elena, I love him, it is Victor Sully Sullivan. And after Uncharted 2, which Sully was in, but not enough, they really much took that and said, okay, let's do Uncharted 3, pretty much a Nathan Drake and Sully Sullivan story. And I thought that was perfect. We got the development behind them, we understood a little bit more about them, understood a little bit more what's going on, and in general, this is where the story started to really open up. And I think without Drake's Deception, A Thieves End doesn't work emotionally all the way because of stuff we know about Drake's past in this one, and kind of how Drake is. And I think this is that personal tale that we were really needing for Nathan Drake. It is really interesting to say this because I do think after Uncharted 2, we get this adrenaline thrill ride where everyone is so excited to see what's going to come next. And 3 is a more deep down story that, while again at the time the visuals were the best in its class, the cinematic set pieces were insane. The environmental design, especially with everything in the desert, I thought was like some of the best that we've seen in an action adventure game yet. But even going from there, the script for me is where it really lacked the character defining moments that we really needed, and I think it actually focused more on that than the spectacle of everything. Because yeah, we had that amazing cargo sequence that I cannot get enough of. I love how Uncharted really much dove into though and gave us such an excellent set piece, and a lot of the action is very ferocious as well, and I love the third act of this game. In those moments, that's where it gets very intense, but for me, having this Sully and Nathan Drake journey, that is what sold me in this. And I really think it just comes down to, if you love the Sully character as much as me, maybe the third game is higher for you, but that is what my reasoning is. Like I said, Uncharted is a fantastic gaming franchise. It's one of my favorites of all time. It always switches around, either 3 or 2 being my favorite, but right now, after replaying it and kind of just diving into it, Uncharted 3 is my favorite Uncharted game once again, and it's one of the easiest franchises to dive back into every single year or every other year and just truly get immersed in. They're so much fun, they're so cinematically created in such a unique way, and I absolutely love these characters. And you know, while it's the end of Nathan Drake's story, maybe we do get more with him later on, maybe we don't, maybe we get more of Chloe. I would love either way to see how these characters are explored, or just in general the world, as long as the time, the effort, and the quality is still there. So guys, that's going to be my Uncharted gaming ranking. I'm really appreciated that all of you guys took the time to spend time with me playing these and really much talking about these games. Now I understand that my ranking, it's a little bit weird because a lot of these games pretty much the same basic concept, but the way that I like to rank them on is replayability, story, characters, and some of the set pieces. And while there's one set piece from almost every single game, it really much was the story that attaches me to what it is, and that's why a lot of these kind of fell for where they were. Now, I did say that I was going to be ranking the movie in this, and as a quick rundown. And honestly, if you've watched the movie or you've seen my review of the movie over on my other YouTube channel, you will definitely know where I'm at. So coming down to the bottom is the Uncharted the movie. Story-wise, I thought it was not the best. I think it tries to adapt a little bit too much. Maybe it tries to adapt so much, and I feel like it was really just lacking the personality of what Uncharted is. It's for sure a fun blockbuster, but nothing more than that for me. Coming up next is Uncharted Drake's Fortune. I love this game. It's a lot of fun. Story-wise, though, kind of like the first Uncharted movie, I guess, but Uncharted, the first movie, does lack the personality, so I guess that's where it's kind of missing that. Uncharted, the first game, Drake's Fortune, doesn't have the biggest depth of anything, but I enjoy this one still. Coming up, number 2 is, of course, Uncharted Lost Legacy. Very self-contained. Would have liked a little bit of a bigger game, but it is a spin-off game, so it's really not that much to be said. But Chloe and Nadine make for interesting characters, as well as adding Sam into the mix, that I thoroughly enjoyed this adventure. This is Uncharted 4, A Thieves End. Really enjoyed this game. Already kind of said my piece to it. Uncharted 2 next, Among Thieves, and then at my number 1, Uncharted Drake's Deception. I'm really excited. I'm actually going to go again, replay these games once again because I just have a bunch of fun with it. But thank you guys again so much for watching this. You guys are really all the best. Hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below for more, and let us know your guys' ranking. So, of course, until next time, keep playing games.